podcast.
Yes. What's up, people? Welcome to Creative Theater Podcast, the show that brings you conversations with visual artists about how they got to where they got, what their day-to-day is like, what their struggles are, goals, thoughts in the art world. The guest is making me laugh here. My name is Ilya. We're on Hastings Street, although today we can't look out the studio. The gates are broken, apparently. That's okay. It's not going to stop us. We're in Vancouver, BC. But most importantly, today in studio, we got a artist, illustrator, muralist, whose work combines the spirit of her paintings with her joy of effective visual problem solving. Very powerful. Her work is led by good feelings, gut feelings. I saw it on her website. Great. Priscilla Yu. Thanks for joining the show.
Hey.
Hello. Thanks for taking the time. I was going to say, it's good to have you back. How long are you back in Vancouver?
I've been back in Vancouver since end of August, and then my partner and I went to Denmark and Germany for 2 weeks.
Very nice. I was worried when you left for where are you going?
I was in Harrison Hot Springs for a year.
Yeah.
My partner was the artist in resident in the Ranger Station Art Gallery in Harrison Hot Springs.
Yeah.
So we lived there for an entire year on the top floor of this Ranger Station Art Gallery. Very
cool. I remember being very curious when you told me that you were going to go, because I feel like for some artists, the seclusion and the peace, or in fact, allows to create more work, while for others, I mean,
man,
yeah.
Ilya.
Tell me.
It was I would say that it was one of the most challenging and amazing and beautiful years of my life. Yeah.
At the same time?
At the same time. Like every month was different. I grew up in Vancouver, Burnaby.
Okay.
So I was really not used to living between a lake and the forest.
And just not a lot of people, a really small place, right?
Yeah. Well, that was the hardest part, I feel, is I think before we moved there, I had this really romantic idea of just I can live anywhere as long as I have my laptop and my boyfriend and I'm making art. And then I quickly learned that I really, really miss my friends and that was such a big part of my world. I don't know. I feel kind of bad because I kind of fell off the bandwagon with chatting with my friends enough.
When you were gone, or
before that, right before I was working part-time at a store doing visual merchandising and customer service, and then on the other side I was doing art shows and started doing murals that summer, and I was really, really busy. And then I don't know, it moving away gave me so much quiet time to I made a list of things I wanted to do that year.
You remembered all the friends that you're ignoring while you're here, is that what you're saying?
Yeah, and then, I don't know, after the first 2 months of getting into checking things off my list of, rebranding my website, my business cards, and making a plan of what I was going to research for marketing strategy and everything, nice. I started to get really lonely.
But that's why I feel like before we started, you said you're most introverted social person. Is that the words you used?
I'm the most that actually sums it up better than what I said.
I said
that I was an anxious. I have so much social anxiety, but I really love people, and I really I feel really outgoing at the same time.
And that's how I see you.
Yeah, it's a strange combo that it's two parts that don't communicate with each other. But yeah, living in Harrison really got me to because there's so much quiet, just really got me to get in tune with my brain and my, the voice in my head that, this is not something.
No, it's good. But was it for the better? Did it?
Yeah.
Did your art change a lot? I'm trying to think because even looking at your website, actually, this is how I was going to start this. Sorry, I was actually going to start the show by saying how amazing your website is. And in fact, for people who want to see Priscilla's work, it's priscillauyu.ca or Priscilla Yu, or at Priscilla Yu Art on Instagram. Go check it out. But specifically check out her website, because I feel like you've got such a well-rounded portfolio, and your website is so beautiful.
Thanks.
That's how I was gonna start this, but anyways, I said it now.
Yeah, no, that's what I worked on for the first 4 months.
And the reason
Yeah.
I bring it up is that, for me, the reason I'm asking you whether your art has changed, because I can tell, because you do so many different types of art. You know, on your page you got illustration, which means commission work for other people. You got personal work, you got murals, and then you're doing all kinds of interesting. I don't know. I almost want to say not merchandise, but you're doing from clothes to there's a shoes collaboration you did. Anyways, you do so much. So I can tell, but from your perspective, has your art changed since going to Harrison Springs, and then going back?
I think it has a bit. I feel like, I don't know, I feel like I've been going on this really long trajectory from when I was in high school, like working off the same kind of style and having it develop more and more every year. So, I don't know, like I started, well, I think when you look at my art, first of all, that there's usually kind of like this obvious like thing that you realize where I like color
Yep.
and pattern
Shapes.
and shapes.
Yep.
And that started from like doodling in high school and just like working off trigonometry worksheets, and
Nice.
that kind of developed into, you know, just me like having this tool to illustrate lots of different topics, but have it like within that style. And I think that, I don't know, every year it kind of shifts a little bit, and because I was away from the city and just like focusing on, you know, drawing every day, it has changed.
Yeah.
But I'm still kind of on the same. I like kind of like squeezing as much as I can from like a rock, if that makes sense.
No, you have to explain.
I don't know. Like part of the fun of doing my personal work is like not really knowing quite how the image is going to end. So like I have these like constraints in mind where like everything has to be geometric, and when I first begin drawing, I'll get like a watercolor piece of paper or canvas or whatever, and I just put down a couple lines, like straight lines and geometric clusters, and whatever that kind of reminds me of, that's the direction.
So you're very process driven then.
Yeah, I don't know, maybe.
Maybe.
I've never called myself that before.
I did, but I don't know if I'm correct.
Yeah.
I just did. But and then the constraints you're talking about, the geometric shapes, are you purposefully putting that on yourself?
Yeah, it's kind of like this big puzzle where like everything has to have, like there's these rules, like everything has to be geometric and angular, and then depending on, kind of like looking at clouds, depending on what I see, I kind of go with that. So a lot of the times I don't quite know where that's going to end up, and that's kind of what's the most exciting and interesting for me, is like creating, like having this boundary and then seeing what comes out from very loosely, dreamily kind of doodling.
That's amazing, because that sounds
Yeah.
like a truly artistic process.
It's weird.
And then, and so within this look, when you do end up working for, whether it's a client or a commission, how are you able to combine, you know, a direction that they give you, because now all of a sudden you have to plan it out, where it sounds like when you create personal work, it comes by doing the work, where now you have to set out and make a piece on something. Has that been challenging?
I feel like it's extra fun. Like it's like an extra constraint, an extra thing to add to the puzzle.
Yeah.
So like, for example, if I'm doing an editorial illustration project, and you know, obviously it kind of it has to relate to the article that I'm illustrating, right? And so it's this process I have where, okay, so I already know that everything's going to be as geometric, and then I'll start off with like writing keywords, and maybe the writer has metaphors that I like, and I try to think very visually. So, and I also try to think about all the things that are angular. It's this weird combination.
That's so
it's like
fascinating.
it's like a mental setup. Like
Okay.
I'm like, okay, so maybe like, for example, sorry, I'm like not good at talking in a straight line.
you're doing very well. I'm interested. Let's keep going.
Okay, so like, you know, for example, the shape of a cardboard box, right? Like there's an inside, there's an outside, like, and it has all these geometric angles. But also it's a really good metaphor for people. Like people have a skeleton, they have interior space, they have exterior space. So I often I don't just think about like how to visually, stylistically make it work, but how to
Like conceptually, I guess.
yeah.
Yeah, no, go ahead, sorry. I didn't want to interrupt. Yeah.
No, exactly. And so like it's like adding all these different elements and boundaries into a pot, and then like once I created all these constraints, and I'm again loosely doodling with that theme and then guiding it. So it's, I don't know, it's like, I guess it, like it's very loose, but at the same time, like I'm very conscious about what I'm doing.
I think it's really cool how thought out it is, and I'm very fascinated by your
Yeah.
thinking. I really appreciate it, especially because you can paint and just make shapes as well, you know, and that's okay too, but I love the fact that you are bringing meaning and ideas to these things. What you talked about reminded me of, I may have mentioned this artist before, Sterling Hundley, an illustrator, but he talks about ideation process, which is how you're saying, you know, you write some words down and try to find metaphors and maybe symbolism to the words that you're looking for. I feel like it's such a cool way to add extra layers to your art. And it's interesting to me as well is that because for yourself, you have representational aspects of your art, but then a lot of elements do go abstract at the same time. So I think it's really cool that you're managing to bring those meanings to the representational, but even I imagine to the abstract parts. How would you describe yourself actually? What kind of art do you make?
Oh, it's really hard. Like I always, it's kind of funny because the more I do interviews, the more I realize that there's like the part of me that I'm aware of, and then there's like this other part that is like my story that I tell about myself.
Mm-hmm.
I think everyone kind of has that
For sure,
a
yeah.
little bit.
So the story
Yeah.
is what you show people of you versus the other you. Is that what you're saying?
Maybe.
Yeah.
I don't know. But then there's also like you can get you can trick yourself into thinking that that story is your story.
Definitely.
I don't know. I'm
No. Tell me more. Keep going.
I don't know. What else?
No. So give me a comparison of if you can, or if you willing to share the story of yourself versus the other you.
Okay, so I hope this is like the answer to this question because it just popped in my head. But
Yeah.
I was just thinking about how it wasn't until like a couple years ago I did like a written interview that I just emailed back to someone, and I think the question was like how, like, hang on for a second.
We're talking about you, the perceived you versus actual you.
Oh yeah. So I think that she was asking me like what my inspiration is behind my work, and you know why I do this. Like I used to draw this character of myself with like this house head kind of girl character, and like why is it that I spent 10 years like drawing in this style? And I think it, like when I look at it outside of myself and I'm trying to answer this question because I didn't know the answer, I think that part of it has to do with like my upbringing. So the more I look at my art after I put it out there, the more I actually learn about myself. It's really kind of a
It's fascinating, but I think that's a difficult part about being an artist, is especially when it's part of you to try to put something into words that you've been doing for so long, right? I think it's this like reactionary visual thing that you do, and then to try to explain it, it's almost, I don't know if you ever taught art before, because that's where I think there's a lot of artists who either, whether they taught themselves or they stumbled on a certain style, I think where you're making it, it's coming out of you. But then to try to explain to someone on how you do it, if you've never actually thought of putting it into words or a technique, it's really difficult. And but that's what you're saying, and then it makes you analyze yourself. And then I can very much relate to what you're saying. How until you truly take time and try to figure out why and how and what you do, it's like you're just unaware.
Yeah.
Has it having done that interview? Has it kind of
actually
affected how you look at your art?
It led me down this like path, like this mental path.
Yeah.
Not a real path. Just about like how because a lot of people ask me about how I choose my colors and all the patterns and things. And again, I think it has to do with my childhood, like kind of growing up in Burnaby with parents who immigrated from Hong Kong like in the 80s. And you know, my parents were kind of protective, like only child girl, you know. I wasn't really allowed to hang out with neighborhood friends after school, so I was at home a lot.
Yeah.
And like I was often like in my bedroom, like like I was constantly for some reason like rearranging my bedroom and making up furniture like with cardboard and towels and things. And
Interesting.
I spent a lot of time like collaging.
Nice.
Like I for some reason I really loved following branding. So if I had fashion magazines, like I would just like cut out like Roxy, like
Nice.
Keds, and just I think that I paid a lot of attention to things that go well together. And then another thing I did was like, I don't know if you did this, Ilya, but like, you know, like play dress up, put like weird outfits together in front of the mirror and just like do that for hours. Did you do that?
Those were your toys? I probably did some, maybe not as much as you.
Yeah. Well, the thing I realized from that interview was that I think that part of the reason why my color combinations seem to really go really well together is because I internalized all these weird combinations that I put together when I was a kid. Because like I'm serious when I'm saying that like I would do this for hours.
That's what you're a true artist from the beginning.
But it's like I wasn't painting. I mean, I painted when I was a kid.
You're
but
creating
like,
visual combinations for your furniture
just
and
like
your clothing.
putting combinations together. And I feel like so much of my work starts before I even put my pencil on the paper. A lot of it comes from being really visually sensitive. Like, you know, like taking a moment. Like, and I have friends like this. I'm not unique in this at all, but like
You're very unique.
Maybe, but like I have friends who share the same thing where like, you know, we'll be in a diner and we'll see a tear in the vinyl and we'll be like, that is a cool, like that is a neat pattern. Like the tear of it reminds me of a river or like a vein or something.
Oh, I love this so much. You're such an artist.
So
it's so awesome.
So like if you like really feel a moment, like if you see something and you're like, holy crap, that's a good combo. Like it could be just like a piece of gum on the ground or something with a nice texture of the concrete. You're like, holy crap. And then maybe you don't take a picture of it, but you really feel it or like you meditate on it kind of. And then when you're painting, it kind of comes out because when you put one color down, you have to feel out the next color, right?
That's so great. You're basically working when you're not working. You're like collecting the visual library that in your mind. Even right now, before the podcast, we're sitting at Save on Meats here, we're sitting on a couch, I guess, and we're looking at the wall, and the wall is teal, and you're like, oh, what do you call it? It's not lime. What is this?
Oh, that's a tough color to.
Yeah, it's
like
just a light green. But Priscilla's like, oh, I
mint.
never realized.
I don't know.
Yeah, I never realized how well gold goes on top of mint. And
Yeah,
that's such an interesting thought.
I like collecting good combos. Is how I would describe it. Like things that make you feel like really good in your gut.
Yeah.
Right.
Like you're out. It's a circle. It's all coming together.
Yeah.
I thought it was. I have too many questions, but I thought it was so interesting how you said that you would have to stay in your room and play a lot, and kind of fast forward to now as you're telling me you're spending too much time in the studio.
Oh, yeah. Luckily I just got a studio space for December, but when we moved back from Harrison Hot Springs after a year of living out there, it's a pretty daunting thought moving back in Vancouver.
For what reason?
Rent,
yeah. Oh yeah. Tell everyone about it, right?
Right?
Vancouver. If you don't know, this is an expensive place to live.
And so we were really lucky to find like this really small bachelor suite in a very central part of Vancouver, and for really affordable for my budget.
Do you think the struggle helps you, or does it take away from?
I think, I mean, I would say that what I'm experiencing right now is not a lot of struggle because I'm really like I feel really lucky.
Nice.
To be doing what I'm doing, like, and also have the emotional support and like friend support group to like go through this crazy thing as freelance art.
Yeah, but you're also on top of that. You're incredibly hardworking. I think you know there's from the as a what do you call it? Not an onlooker, like as an outsider, someone observing your progress. It seems like you've been just on fire, especially this last year. So much amazing work, and
Thank you.
I'm as always excited. Yeah, just excited to keep watching it. But sorry, you're talking about the.
Hang on. You were asking me about.
Oh, both of us just got lost, didn't we?
You
I
were
just
asking me
sidetracked
about
you.
our place. What was it?
The
I had
struggle.
an
There's a
answer.
struggle helping
Oh.
you. Is it affecting your art in a good or a bad way? But you said you're pretty lucky.
Yeah, because I mean, I don't think it's like. I think that I am generally like a glass half full kind of person
Nice.
in general, and
I
so
appreciate that.
but I feel like I don't take that for granted because like I think I've been really lucky enough to have like emotional support in my life with my parents and everything to give me that base and stability and everything. But yeah, like we live in a place that's less than 200 square foot. We call it the submarine.
Okay.
And I guess in a way we like my boyfriend and I would try to he's also an artist. His name is Sean Caremaker.
What's up? Amazing artist. Look him up.
Yeah, look him up.
You're a power couple.
So we're I feel like it's like this really cool game, in a way. It's like, what's the worst that could happen, like we are living kind of cheap. Like we moved a couple times in the past 2 years, and so we got rid of a lot of stuff, and everything in our space is everything we love, important things. And so I feel like in a way having such a small space and having a small budget is helps me focus.
It just allows you to have only the important things.
Yeah, it helps me focus on what I care about in life, and also helps me focus on art.
There's no distractions.
There's no distractions. There's no room for distractions.
There's no video games laying around where you gotta
Actually,
play?
there are.
There are?
Yeah.
Oh, no. Do you actually play video games?
Not really, but Sean does.
But, okay,
Yeah.
he's the one who's distracting himself.
Yeah.
Like me. I sometimes distract myself. Probably shouldn't.
But yeah, I did realize though, like when I came back to Vancouver in September, I just thought like I go really hard, if you know what I mean. Like I push myself like sometimes too hard, but I was like, it's okay, Sean. Like I'll have my studio under the bed. Like we have a loft bed.
Yeah.
You can take that wall over there. Like we got this. We'll make it work,
Yeah.
And this is how I always approach things. And then I slowly iron out. Like it doesn't work. So
I was just going to say, that's when it's fun
Like,
to
I'm
be around
stubborn.
you. And then you said, oh, no, it doesn't work. Oh, okay.
well, I mean, I eventually like after a couple. So we were in Europe too, like in end of September to October. When we came back, I started working in our home, and Sean got a studio, so I was just home all day by myself, where I live and where I eat, and just it's maybe twice the room of the studio.
Okay.
Yeah, it's really small. So, and also if I'm sitting in my office chair at my desk, that's like it's the only chair in the room. So I'm eating there and I'm like doing my work there, and then I'm taking Netflix like breaks there too. I just felt terrible after.
Did you go crazy?
I did go crazy. Like Sean would come home and I'd be like, hey, like just.
But you're telling the true story of a freelance artist living in Vancouver, I guess, right? I mean,
there's a word for that,
and
but that Sean and I call like wearing sweatpants for days. It's called slob life.
the more you know. But that's got to be difficult. That's something I did want to talk to you about. Is doing you're running your own business. You could say, being the brand, being an artist, and freelancing. Actually, how long have you? So you said you were working somewhere before you left. So how long have you been freelancing, kind of consecutively?
I think this is my second year.
Wow.
Yeah.
So you're doing it.
Yeah, it's the whole like, what's the worst that could happen thing that is just like pushing me forward.
Such an optimist.
Yeah.
But has it been working? Are you happy with the way it's going?
Like surprisingly, it actually is working.
I'm very glad to hear that.
I mean, it's weird. Like as a freelancer, I don't know about other people, but for me, it's such an emotional roller coaster. I mean, 3 weeks ago, I was like, maybe because I'm waiting on some paychecks from other projects, and like maybe I should get some kind of part-time factory job. Like maybe I should go to Lush and wrap soaps up or something. And then like a day later, like I got an option for a project.
Project drops.
Yeah. So this is like every week, I guess. But you forget. It's really easy to forget.
Does it make you anxious though?
It does make me anxious, but I feel like I'm getting a lot better at it. I think
Mm.
living in Harrison and having that isolation really helped, because I feel like that's the extreme end of it. Like living by a lake in a forest, an hour and a half away from all your friends. It really like got me to learn some new tools to deal with
That's
like
so cool.
the emotional roller coaster that happens.
And like I said before, that's either perfect dream for someone, or that's a not a fun situation to be in. And that's that's why I love when you came back, when you met me at Atomic, and you're like, Ilya, it was so hard. Or, I don't know if that's the word you used, but it's like, oh, I'm so glad to be back.
I'm
'Cause
so
I know-
happy to be back.
I know you're a social person. You are, and yeah, I'm very happy for you to be back. I'm happy to see all the art worlds you're going to be conquering. I'm going to keep conquering them here.
I hope.
No, I know you will be.
Like I would like to keep myself from going crazy. Do you know what I do? Like
Tell me.
I write so many notes to myself,
Like?
reminders, like reminders of like shortcuts to the mental state I want to be in. You know?
I need that. I should probably do that.
Oh, I'll show you after. I have like a stack of like the stuff that I write to myself.
Does it work?
It does work.
Okay.
I don't think that I could have done it without my notes. Like
Notes to
that
self.
I wrote to myself.
But what are they specific, or is like, hey Priscilla, chill out?
They're little things like remember. Oh man. Okay. Like remember that the world is abundant enough for your dreams.
That's a
Things
good.
like that. Or like, you know, things. Sometimes I get really anxious about taking on a phone call. Like I try to be casual about it, but then there's something like I dissect it and I'm like, oh man, it's just like the only information they're getting from me is my voice and what I'm saying. That's high pressure. Well, that's what's happening right now.
That's what I'm gonna say. I'm glad you are here.
But you know, I have this note that says 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go, and that's just like what I say before I dial the number.
You're. It's like you're an actress.
Yeah, they're just like just go, like
Do it.
because most of the hard part isn't like when I'm actually talking to somebody. It's like the anxiety beforehand.
Yeah.
So there's like shortcuts to getting to think in the way that you want. And it also like helps me, well, it helps me be happier and also helps me like be able to take on so many new things because as a freelance artist, you're not just making art, right? Like you're like going to openings, you're like standing behind your artwork, you're doing like interviews. And those are all things that I would not have guessed I would have done when I was in high school.
And nobody
So-
prepares you for it, also.
Man, well, I had a really bad experience one time in university where I blanked out, like for a presentation.
Okay.
So
Just nothing.
it just, you know what it was? I was overconfident that time.
That's the problem. You can never be confident again.
I was like, I'm gonna wing it, and then I thought I was gonna wing it the way that I went through when I practiced at home, but obviously you cannot replicate like the exact same thing.
Have you been traumatized ever since?
I haven't. I have
Actually-
been trying to work through that, but something like this is really great because you're such a friendly face to talk
Aw,
to,
thanks.
and I've known Ilya for
We'll have to get into it.
since high school.
Yeah,
so.
that's right. Those were interesting days. I was the new Russian immigrant to Canada with long hair. I'm pretty sure I was was working on this Viking piece for so long. Anyways, yeah, Priscilla and I go way back, Moss Scrub days.
Yeah, it's kind of funny though how you perceive yourself
It is, and
when you're in high school because I'm pretty sure one of my good friends thought you were the new cute guy who like he's the new guy.
Well, I appreciate that thought because I did not think like that of myself. And that's this actually kind of goes back to what you were saying, how what you present yourself to people and what you actually think. And I think as you get older, this changes. But yeah, definitely looking back on high school, that self-esteem was pretty low.
Yeah,
Especially as an artist and having moved. And,
that's not easy. Yeah.
no, well, and then so what you're talking about, the difficulty of speaking with people and the anxiety, I imagine a lot of people can relate to, especially the artists, because it's just, I mean, a lot of our brains are so, the social interaction is the more difficult part for creative types. It's just, that's
Yeah.
kind of how it goes. And I don't know.
It's super weird because I love talking to people,
Nice.
but I don't know what it is. I think it's just like the fear of just like I mean that's pretty standard, like the fear of the unknown.
But are you worried of judgment or just unknown?
Um Maybe that's part of it. I'm not really sure, but I determine like sometimes like I'll go to an art show by myself. Like maybe I remember one time a couple years ago, I had to go to this art show and I had already said I was going to go. And it ended up like I was I was in the Starbucks next to the gallery and I just couldn't get myself to go for some reason. I'm like, I'm here. Like I am so close to the next door, but I just could not get myself out until I talked to one of my friends on the phone and she was like, you're probably just scared of the first 10 minutes. Like you should just go there, maybe grab a drink and just like remember it's like the first 10 minutes. And she was right.
Is that what it was?
Yeah, like I always have a great time.
Yeah.
But it's the first 10 minutes of the combination of acquaintances, like it's people that you kind of know but you don't know so well, people you're not sure if they remember you or not. That's like a combination for
And then there's
a lot of
expectations.
anxiety.
Yeah. I'm always worried I'm going to forget people's names.
I do it all the time now.
And I'm so bad. And actually, when I started the podcast, especially the first couple episodes, I was so scared that I'm going to call the person by a wrong name. I just like that. So that anxiety you're talking about, yeah, definitely had those. And it's getting started, I guess. But at least here, because it's a long conversation, once you're in, you're just kind of hanging out. So it's okay, you can get past that. But yeah, imagine if you only have 10 minutes to talk.
Yeah.
I think that's too much pressure.
But yeah, like that's actually one of the best things about being an artist for me is the fact that because I'm so stubborn and I want to make the art that I want and I want to do this for like full time, like all the time, I'm so stubborn with it and I want it so badly that I'm willing to stretch my comfort zone to try all these new things. And it's been really good for me. And it's also been really great that like I've learned, and this is something that I wrote in one of my notes, I think too, that I stick on my wall, which is like every single time you learn something new or you get past a certain thing, you level up to the next thing. So it's kind of an exciting thing to like not be held by your fear and just like try the next thing, and then it builds you up to the next thing, and then now you're like there's a lot, your comfort zone has widened.
Then you're level 25.
Level 25. I don't really know what that level.
You don't know what level you're at?
I don't know what the reference is. Is it a video game thing?
Probably. I'm just, yeah. I'm sorry. Shouldn't have done
I'm like,
that.
did you think I was 25? Because
yeah, okay.
you know my age.
Do I?
Well, I mean, you're older than you because you were in grade 11 and I was in grade 12.
You have a way better memory than I do. Okay, that makes sense. I guess I know your age now. I was going to ask you something. Were you always so introspective?
I'm an only child, I guess.
Is that why you think?
Would you consider me introspective?
What I mean is that you are very aware of yourself.
Oh, yeah.
Like the way you're talking about right now, how you analyze yourself, you think about yourself and the way your brain works. And
I'm really interested in perception.
And me as well, but I only say that because not a lot of people I know are like that. You know what I mean? I think being self-aware I think it's a very valuable skill because I don't know, especially as an artist, I guess you got to know yourself. And it's difficult. And it probably never ends, but I really like that you are. And that's what I'm wondering. Has it always been so?
I think so. Like, even, I mean, I was going to say judging from some of my old diary entries when I was a kid. But I would say part of my diary entries were just, like, observations of, like, I would be like, this is what, my dad was angry at me. And, instead of yelling at him, I just decided to walk away and think about it.
I can screw it around. No, keep going, sorry.
Okay. So there were, like, I was kind of introspective, but I guess the other half of my diary entries were just about, like, boys and teenage things.
Oh, typical, yeah.
Yeah.
What was and the fact that you're so connected to your childhood, it seems like that you're referencing it. I think I find it interesting because I don't feel like, and I'm sure it's probably has to do something with my memory or the way I look back on it. I feel so disconnected from the child me, and I don't know why or how. I don't know how it works for other people because I haven't been in their brains, but you keep referencing it. Is it something you often think about?
I think I did a lot of thinking when I was a kid. Like,
Mhm.
I was like, well, first of all, I never know when I'm explaining something how far to go back and like how to anyway.
But you are. I mean, even when you're saying about your art and your style, you're saying, "Oh, that's when it developed." And once again, I think it's cool that you're being able to connect these dots.
It's from that interview I did.
Yeah,
like,
really.
Yeah.
Change your life. Okay.
It
Note-
honestly kind of did,
Yeah?
actually. I think like I should write about my art a little bit more. But
Note to self: do interviews.
yeah. But yeah, so when I was a kid, I was brought up in a very like Protestant Christian religious family, and I had a hard time when I was like 10 or 11 because I realized I didn't have any faith. Like like people in my youth group were starting to like get really into it, and I just could not genuinely get into it. And I'd be like, why are they playing music while we're praying?
Too
Like,
many
why?
questions.
Like,
Yeah. Same.
And so
Yeah.
like I did this thing where, okay, I don't know how this is related, but like I would put my blanket over my head in my bed, and I'd be like, just like, show me a sign. like I don't have any faith, and I can't fake it, and I can't do it. So when I was 16, one of the counselors at church were like we were doing some kind of Bible story answer question thing, and I can't even remember the question, but he was like, do you really believe that, or are you just like saying that? Like, he was just asking me, and then I was like, shit, like I think I'm just saying it, like I don't know. And then so that's when I started to go to a bunch of other different churches and like just try to figure out if this religion that I was brought up with was for me. And eventually I just stopped going and like decided that this is very me, that I'll never know the answers because I'm just a small little monkey.
That's because you are so thoughtful, introspective. I guess it seems like it's a little bit of a difficult story. Although, I mean, I know we're not on the topic of art, but just the idea how, like, at what point should a certain ideology or religion should be exposed to you? Because that feeling is I feel I can relate, because it's almost like you're feeling inadequate because you're in a group of people who seem to have a common aspect, and you're like, why are they so into it and I'm not?
Yeah, and like I tried so hard to have faith.
But But I think it sucks that you had to try it. I wish that wasn't a burden that it was put on people, because it's a burden.
I think that's a complicated thing, because I think that the people who are like getting kids, like my parents, to go to church, they're trying to share something that they think is really good for them, but that doesn't necessarily mean it's for everyone. Yeah. So.
Yeah, that's a pretty big conversation right there. That's a difficult topic. Let artists figure out religion problems of this world. At what point should kids be exposed to
Next time,
yeah. No, you and I are gonna just one day just do a show where we just tackle religion. We'll talk about
We're gonna figure it out.
You and I, if you're listening, you come to us for answers. I guess we'll change gears. I haven't looked at my list of questions yet. I like how this is flowing. I'm really enjoying this.
Me too.
You're, like I mentioned at the beginning, your portfolio and your website is so well rounded. I feel like when I saw your website recently, it made me think, how else or what can you add to it except for just creating more work? And also, and I guess it was just a comment, but also, how did you learn, or were you taught to document your work so well?
Well, it's like so many compliments in one go.
Well, just take them, but you grab the question.
I think, again, like I love branding. Like I have friends who are graphic designers, and in some ways I wish that I was also doing design. I might start doing more design work.
I already thought you did, but okay.
Well, I guess I've had like some clients here and there, but like I don't have them on my website because maybe it's something I should fix. Maybe it's just an idea I have in my head, but like I feel like, I went to Emily Carr, and there's the design department, like the people that were my friends, I just felt like they worked so hard, and like they like learned so many skills and went through all that schooling, and you know, there's this whole academic aspect of design. And for me to just come in and like call myself a designer feels kind of uncomfortable
Okay, yeah.
for me. But yeah, like I'm doing some collaborations with some of my designer friends who are art directing some new clothing and new
That's
products
awesome.
I'm making
Yeah,
soon. And I've been really enjoying that. Like I think I like hang out with painters a lot because of the whole like, oh, look at this weird tear in the vinyl
Those are the good
couch
people.
thing.
Yeah.
But also like designers who are like so into, like, they can just break down one little corner of a street,
And
you
it's
know?
so precise.
Yeah, and I love that.
Yeah.
Like,
Get them to talk about just talking about a letter A. And
yeah,
and all
I
the
love
rest of
that though. Like, that's
Yeah.
really, I don't know. I feel like I can relate to that kind of level of obsession, maybe. But yeah, so I think I just pay a lot of attention to design and design blogs, and so a lot of it just has to do with like trying to break down like what makes this site so slick, why is it so good, and also I did plan before I made the website. Like, I just used Squarespace, but the design of it, like, I had to write it. I wrote it all out like on paper, like what the tabs were going to be and everything. So, and also like even recently I've been tweaking my website so that, you know, like there's no like random lowercase, or maybe there's a period behind one line but not another.
You're speaking like a graphic designer.
And that stuff matters. I feel like it's in the background, but when you look at a website of a company that has a branding team helping them with that, or a design team, they think of everything, and it gives you a different kind of feeling.
Oh yeah.
And that's the kind of standard I place on myself sometimes.
So cool. That's what I say. It's so hardworking. And I think because we have so much good products, so many good websites or branding out there, when you see something that's not up to par, you may not know why it's not as good, but you can kind of sense holes. It's especially these days, if you go to a company's website and they have a website that looks like it was made 15 years ago,
Right.
you just get turned off.
And it's also like, I tend to do things that I enjoy, right? And I really
That's a
enjoy
good life.
iron things out. Like,
Yeah.
I like ironing out. Like, I mean, it's by no means is it perfect, because I went back a couple weeks ago and I was adding, like changing the lowercase and uppercase of certain words, and then also changing the font. I don't know. It's really, I don't know. Like, I just felt like the font I was using before just felt too impersonal. I wanted it to be slick, but also personal.
You should be a
I
graphic
don't know.
designer. Look at what
Yeah.
you're talking about. I think it's great too that I probably mentioned this before, but if you only go the fine art route, sometimes it feels like there's not enough constraints or rules. And I think this is why, if you're combining your art with graphic design, all of a sudden you're bringing some constraints, which typically, if you have some, they're only going to make your art better, because you're not in this open space of
And
endless
it's
possibilities.
so exciting to see the surprises that come from the constraints, because you know, like, you might be thinking normally, maybe you think kind of linearly, like you ask a question and you answer A to B, but what happens when like the formula of how you get to the answer is different? It's just like you don't even know what the answer is going to be, because it comes from that equation or that boundary. If that makes sense.
It does, and especially when you're answering like an artistic question. I know I guess answering a question can be a metaphor for what
Right.
should this piece be, and
Yeah,
if you do that,
that's what I mean.
yeah. I guess I was not on the same page as you. She's just laughing at me. You touched on studying Emily Carr. Was it a painting program?
I have a BFA, and I did painting classes, I did illustration, and
Nice.
then in the last semester I took a typography class.
Nice. So you're crossing over into graphic design. That's really cool. How much of the I think I've had a number of Emily Carr grads here now, and I always drill them about Emily Carr. But what percentage of your education would you say you're using every day? Like generally, I know that's a kind of hard question to answer, but how much of it do you think has been useful to you in your everyday?
I'm making that face not because I'm trying to figure out the exact percentage, but because I feel like it's a really small percentage. Like,
That's rough. Yeah.
I know, like, I don't know. I think that going to Emily Carr and going through like a lot of the illustration classes. That exposed me to a lot of illustrators from all over the world and people who really inspire me. It also got me to connect with a lot of other illustrators in the city too. So that has been a really big thing for what I do now. But in some ways, I wish that I had gone into the design program. Yeah.
I guess because they're in the design program, you can see that they're given solid rules. They're given are they just given more steps towards a process?
It's also the technique and stuff. Like, I feel like I know like the Adobe suite you know, like enough to format things for whatever they need to be. But I just feel like it would have been really cool to have that same drilling training for 3 years.
Yeah, right. And so what was it that you were doing then? Like how, because I didn't go to McCarm, like how was what were the classes like then?
Like I think a lot of the classes were really quite loose.
Okay. Just explore yourself.
Yeah, there's a lot of exploration, but I mean, critical theory really left a mark on in my first year, like taking a critical theory class, like just sort of breaking down aesthetics. It's a little bit of philosophy.
That's cool.
And I feel like taking that class, even though I only retain like a very small percentage of it, it's also because I have a bad memory. Like I wouldn't blame the school for this.
I have a bad memory too.
Yeah. It got me to question things.
That's
the
very
way
valuable.
that and that's really valuable, right? So yay, and my car.
Yeah, that's a big takeaway. Would you ever teach? Would you ever have classes?
I feel like that is my next thing that I'm scared of, that I want to not be scared of anymore.
Okay, nice.
Yeah.
You just like to challenge yourself.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't even feel like it's an option. I was just like, yeah, that's my next thing. I don't know why. Yeah.
Oh, you don't have a choice.
I think it's because I'd like to do it. I'd like to. I want to be able to share some of the things I've learned in the past couple of years.
It is giving back, right? Because there must have been people who gave you a lot of info. Yeah.
And I think there's a lot of value to being able to articulate what it is you do. Yeah.
Is it strange to be in a position where now you can share information? Do you know what I mean? Like, is it because I often have these thoughts just in general life where you realize, oh wait, now I'm older. Oh wait, I've done this for this many years.
I mean, for so many years, I had like what I call like imposter syndrome.
Yeah.
I'd be like, why are you hiring me for this? Like, I don't know what I'm doing.
That's all of us.
And then now I'm like, oh wait, like I've been doing this. Like, I have examples where I've done this already. I don't have to be that scared about it.
You got so much skill. Okay, let me just go back to this question though, because I don't know if you answered it. What was documenting your work something that was strongly emphasized, or you're mentioning? I think your answer was because you like brands and.
Oh, so that was the answer for like how everything looks really like things look really complete on my website. Documentation thing, I've never even really quite thought about it. But
why do you just do it?
I think I just am really strict. Oh, you know what it is? It's probably the typography class, like where people just kind of got. It wasn't like they got ripped to shreds. It was like the critiques were really, they were really. What's the word?
Constructive? No?
Yeah, really constructive.
For presentation.
And so it's like, if something doesn't matter, it shouldn't be in the image. Like, and I hold that really like hard.
Clearly,
even though like I'm taking photos in the studio, in my studio space with like construction paper or poster paper and like clips and like just really, really.
It looks really good. Once
Thank
again,
you.
people go to PriscillaYu.ca. It's impressive. Because it makes such a big difference because you have to present yourself to the clients in the world, but it looks great.
I think part of it too is like I did a lot of research when I was in the first couple of months in Harrison, like just looking through websites of artists and creatives that I really admire and I want the same client list.
Yeah.
And I'm like, damn, like if I want to have these clients, like I need to represent myself in a similar way.
Such a pro.
Yeah. And also it's fun. It's like really fun to get it to like put it all together. I'm using a lot of hand motions, which
they'll understand them. I'll just start explaining. Right now she's doing this move. But it's cool that you find it fun, because sometimes it feels like documenting is a chore, at least personally, because to me, like, I just want to make the piece of art, and it's like, now I have to put all this work in documenting, even though it's ironic because the painting took way longer, yet I'm like struggling to have to hang it properly, light it properly, Photoshop it properly, and if it doesn't work, to me that sounds like a chore, but I know how
You should
important
get
it is.
someone to do it for you.
And that's what I've been doing. Yeah, it's so much better when someone who is a pro comes in and just.
I also work really small often, right? Aside from doing murals, like a lot of the pieces that I do can be scanned in a couple pieces.
That's why I like watercolors.
So
you can those small pieces, you just scan them. I love it. It's such
Yeah.
a straight, and storage is easy.
yeah,
the
like
beauties
you
of
can
working
scan
small.
it in a couple. Yeah, I generally work really small or
Yeah.
really big, like with murals or
Yeah.
really small.
That's true. Yeah, you've been doing some really big walls recently,
Yeah,
and then
this year.
this is the mural year for you.
Yeah, apparently.
Yeah.
Um,
I like how you contacted me a couple of months ago. Hey, Ilya, I'm coming to Vancouver to be painting 2 or 3 murals. Someone like that. Do you have time to help?
Yeah,
that
I
must have
got
been crazy.
an amazing team though for those 2 murals that you're
Nice.
talking about.
Yeah.
Yeah, one person I really need to shout out to is like Oksana
Oh, yeah.
Gaidasheva. Holy crap.
That's what I heard. She's
She
pretty amazing.
is the most amazing muralist I've ever seen. Like in
What's
terms
up?
of like everything. She's so hardworking. She's so fast. Like,
Yeah.
and like she, like I'd be like, Oksana, like we're going for lunch. We're gonna go get some tacos. Do you want to come? And she'd be like, no, I want to paint. And she just paints like the whole time.
She strikes me truly as a hard worker. She's got a mural, I think, on Main
Yeah.
Street.
She's got one on, I
or
think, Kingsway.
the Lion one. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a huge one. She's very good.
Yeah, she really inspired me.
Gonna have to get you
actually.
on here. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah. And then I saw you hinting, and I don't know if you can tell us, but you got another mural coming up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I asked if I could if I could share the client name, and like the curator was kind of iffy about it.
No
like,
worries.
She was like saying that I could. She said I probably could.
It's okay.
Yeah.
You don't have to, but you can. But can you tell maybe the scale or the
It's
look?
it's gonna be an indoor mural at like the social network
Okay.
place office.
Damn. Okay.
Yeah.
Very good.
That's in less than 2 weeks.
Wow.
Yeah.
Do you just laughing? How many? Is it one wall or how big are?
It's 4 walls. Yeah.
Wow.
I'm actually going, like, everything's happening so quickly.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So tomorrow I go on site to do the precise measurements.
Wow.
Like I did a mock-up when I was in Berlin, like at the end of
Really?
September.
So this started a while back then.
Well, it looks like the email chain went back really far, but I was away and then I came back, and I think that like their department got really backed up, and so it wasn't until like last week that I set up to go see the site. Luckily, I have some photos from there, so I made the mock-up for it, like for my pitch. But yeah, I haven't seen the actual place yet.
This is really exciting though. How did you find, or how did they find you? How did this opportunity come up?
I think they found me through Instagram.
So it does work, huh?
Yeah.
That's what
Yeah.
I love it that the platform has been so useful to the artists. It's become the one.
Yeah.
And then actually, but speaking about documentation, I had a question written down here where I'm impressed by your documentation of your work, especially because eventually one day, inevitably, we're going to have to move to a different platform and another one and another one.
Yeah.
And having that work
Yep.
saved, it's very useful. I don't know if I have it all saved, so.
I've been trying to, like, in the past 2 years, I've gotten a little bit better at, like, saving under projects and stuff.
Actually naming your folders.
Yeah, actually naming my folders so that future me
Yeah.
will not, like,
Hate the past you.
yeah, exactly.
Sorry, I didn't mean to derail I want to talk about the murals a little bit more. You're saying it is all happening pretty quick, and when tackling big walls, it does become a pretty large operation, especially if you are doing it by yourself, from just getting the supplies to the measurements to whether it's projecting or not or freehand, and just keeping the place clean. That I like outdoor murals so much more because if you spill paint, it's okay.
I actually I feel like I do enjoy outdoor murals
Yeah.
quite a bit. Like, yeah, just because of that. Like, I'm not the most tidy kind of person.
I just don't want to be.
Yeah.
It's so
Right,
much work.
especially because of what you're doing. Like, I mean, yeah, like your mark making is kind of like looser
Yeah.
and gestural and stuff, and like you sometimes you can't control where the
Yeah.
paint's gonna like come off your brush.
It's true. So you have to, especially on larger surfaces, it's nice to be able to swing the brush around. Kyle and I did this mural at an office. I just remember, just keeping it clean, like taping the edges. I just like that part of the job.
Where's that music coming from?
It's from the outside. I like that it's a little ambience from
Okay.
no, it's not me playing it. Yeah. I remember this has been interesting. Yeah, when we started when the podcast did start, like a little bit of this in the back. Because I was actually wondering if I should be playing music, but this gives just enough noise that it's lively.
I like this. I like the song.
Oh, yeah?
It reminds me of what is that comic? Oh, Wedding Crashers or Anchorman.
Yeah.
Yeah, like when they're riding their bicycles.
This is where it's from.
Yeah, I don't remember which one though. Sorry.
I'm just fascinated by your brain and the way you think. I was gonna ask something else about murals. Okay, let me look here. Oh yeah, and how do you have a process established at this point and how you approach walls?
I feel like every wall I've done has been different, and so every single time I'm like, I'm gonna overplan the next one, and then something goes wrong. Like there was this mural that I did in March or April, and it's inside the shopping mall, and and the head office that I was communicating with didn't communicate with the painters who were prepping the walls, and so they prepped the wall like so I was gonna put the penciling in and my like sketch in on the same day as they were gonna paint it, and so we were there at the same time. And I told the painter, I was like, oh, you know what, you're prepping the wall for my mural tomorrow, but I'm just gonna like pencil in. We don't actually need to add that white layer because I'm gonna be covering the entire wall, like, so it doesn't even matter. Then I messaged, and then I emailed the head office, and they said that was fine and everything. And so I painted it, but I think maybe, I mean, I don't know why, but that person came back to paint it. I think maybe they was worried.
After you did the drawing?
Yeah, I think maybe he was worried potentially about like not being paid or something. I don't really know.
Taking away money from them.
Yeah, I don't know, but
that sucks. So your whole drawing for the wall, that was a really big wall too.
Yeah. And I did it by myself. Like I did the sketch, like I had to project it in sections, so I had to like run back and forth, and it took me hours. And then the next day I had to, and it happened to be a Sunday too, so the mall was closed early, so I didn't have to come in really late at night. But the next day I came and the wall was white, and I had to come back and paint,
That
like,
hurts.
or do the drawing again.
That hurts.
Yeah, it was like I couldn't have planned for that, right?
Yeah, no, I guess you have to. That's why you have to add a couple of days extra on top of every project, just because it's not gonna.
But generally, with the process that I have now, and I'm still working on like streamlining it a little bit, but like usually, if a client contacts me and they want to have a meeting, I'll kind of ask them, like, they might send me a photo, but I'll try to get like an idea of the wall, and then I actually go into the meeting with like some sketches already, or like at least words, like themes, kind of. And then I feel like it makes it easier for everyone, because you're not doing like an extra meeting. You're just like
you already
have like something to chew on, you know.
That's a pretty good advice, actually.
Yeah, and then what I've been doing is like what I learned from doing VMF essentially is I just get the template, I get it to scale, I pencil draw, I get it printed on larger paper, like 11 by 17, and then I do the sketch. I do a couple of them, and then the one they decide on, then I put color on it with just Photoshop, and then I use that same line drawing file to project onto the wall. Yeah.
Very cool. It seems pretty clean. That's what I was wondering. But when you do the drawing of the design, you do traditionally.
Yeah, I do it with pencil.
Okay,
like,
cool.
I don't even really need to print out the template. I could just use a ruler, but I like get the measurements like really big. Like there'll be like, oh, it's 40 feet wide by like 20 feet high or something. I put that in Illustrator, and then I scale it down onto tabloid size paper, and then I print it out.
What was
so
the
I don't
template
have to
though?
measure it.
I don't know if I've seen it. The template meaning
it's just like the shape of the wall. It's just the shape of the wall.
Okay, cool. Okay, I got you.
Yeah.
I've been Yeah, I asked about process because I feel like although I think personally planning it traditionally is fun, I guess it depends on the approach. Right now I'm working on a design for a building and I think it's like 3 or 4 stories and I just went digital right away. I think because yeah. I mean that's why I ask it, just because sometimes and you do this you I think you make a lot of you specifically worry about mark making, so I think it probably applies to you as well, where when something goes to a certain scale, that mark that you can make on paper with a like 2 millimeter pencil, it's going to be at a certain point it's just hard to translate to a large wall, and it's almost, you know, whether you abandon the tools and stop trying to recreate that same mark that's, you know, 100 times bigger, or, you know, 20 whatever, or you just develop a new set of tools and mark making. Do you know what I mean? So if I painted it traditionally and then try to translate that to a wall, actually that could turn out cool, but it's just, I don't know if personally I was planning as well for it, knowing that those brush strokes can't be recreated, because
you have to draw the brush stroke, I find.
Yeah,
like you have to like, well, for me anyway.
Yeah.
I find like, because like a lot of the times on my gouache watercolor paper paintings, I'll use like I'll be like on a flat surface and I'll add water on the top layer, and then I'll just drop in some color, like drop in some paint or ink, and then I really love the effect of like the fluid dynamics and all the ink kind of bleeding out. And so how do you recreate that on a vertical wall, right?
It's difficult, yeah.
And so I started to make these kind of smudgy textures. Like I'm drawing an organic, I'm using quotation marks with my hand right now. So
should have let everyone know, but yeah, quotation marks.
yeah, so I'm doing these like these texture lines on there, and I'm trying to kind of imitate an organic pattern. But what I found is I really like drawing this pattern, and I started using it on my smaller pieces, so it kind of transferred back.
So it came from the wall to the wow, nice.
Yeah,
I really like when different mediums inform one another.
Yeah.
Where, and what you're talking about watercolor, I really enjoyed being able to try to recreate watercolor and oil, and I guess you just learn how to manipulate these mediums in different ways.
That sounds really hard, actually, like to recreate it in oil.
It is. It's either getting those soft blends or sometimes those accidents. And actually, you're able to. Sometimes it's possible to do it with like turpentine if you thin it out, but you only get to do it once, kind of like in watercolor. If the
evaporates, kind of. Oh no! Like you can't add on top.
What I mean, like, you do a wash and the white still shows of the canvas or a board, but it's just. Then again, if you try to recreate that on top of already a painted surface, kind of like in watercolor, you won't get it until you try to fake it and paint it. I don't know. I think there's so many different ways, and I see artists use different chemicals, like even benzene, I think, to try to get it to react with paint to actually make a little splotch. I think it's fascinating. I think like when you see people who really like to nerd out about the technique and the materials, there's too many possibilities. I don't know if I'm that artist. I don't know if I just realized I like painting. I don't know if sometimes experimenting with too many mediums can actually be frustrating because it's too many tools.
I want to say that I'm not limited to my medium, but like I do a lot of painting. I like to paint.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
You're saying it's like a confession. I like to paint.
But yeah, I don't know. It is interesting to like work really big and then work really small again. Because I also like, I don't know, I keep like looking at my art like I'm like a different person, like I'm not me. And it just, I'm realizing some of the patterns that I was drawing out like with a small brush, they're kind of like almost like a zoomed out version of the organic patterns that I do. Like, for example, if I'm doing kind of like a water wash and then the pattern becomes kind of like a diamond shape, or like there's like areas where it's like more saturated with the ink, I started to draw like what that would be presented if I was drawing line work. Translate it kind of. And so all my work is kind of like different scales of the same patterns.
Are you going to like fractals or something?
Yeah, I am interested in fractals.
Yeah. And well, especially if you're interested in geometry, and that's the way you start out.
But it's really cool. Like some of the inspiration I found a lot of the inspiration I found is just from the city, like, and that influences the color choices and like kind of like the ratio of pukey colors with vibrant colors, you know?
Pukey
like in
colors.
the city is full of like weird, ugly colors with bright colors, right?
Yeah.
But like a couple summers ago, Sean and I spent, I think, like 5 or 6 days on Main Island, and we've been going back every year ever since, except for last year summer because we were in Harrison.
Yeah.
But,
Good to know.
yeah. But you know, we started looking at, we're hanging out by the ocean a lot, right? Like just by the coastline, and I started looking at these patterns, like in the water, where I started to kind of translate them into like, this is like 4 diamonds that become one bigger diamond, you know? And, you know, that's a fractal.
Yeah.
But then as I drew that on my sketchbook, it became like a pattern that I could use like in my work. So it's like I'm taking my personal interest in what I've drawn to, and what I would do if I wasn't art is like, actually, that's not even a job. Like, look at things. No, like,
I'm sure you find a way to get paid for
be
it.
a poet. I don't know.
I think it's so great that you found that direct correlation of life to art. It seems like it's a straightforward line where I think I should try to do it more. Where and sometimes I do it, especially in studies, where I see something and just so cool, and then you just sometimes you see something and. Maybe the way I look at it, I always think like, oh, that's a great photo. And maybe I should start saying that's a great painting. Maybe I do that too. But I have that, I think sometimes direct line. But I've noticed that if I am trying to build a body of work and I pick a theme, sometimes I find it harder to have the direct line where it needs work and twisting to take something and put it into this container that is the theme.
Yeah,
and
that's
so
kind of what I was talking about before, right?
Okay.
Like, because of my illustration work, it's a combination of, it's like partially experimental, right? Like, I don't really quite know what is going to end up happening, but I do have like all these themes and constraints in mind that guide
so
the
you
whole
do that.
thing.
I wanted to ask you, do you want to do art shows? Do you plan to? Actually, maybe let's start with the better question. Here, I'm trying to look that. I had it specifically written down, but more so at this point, what kind of lifestyle as an artist would you like to have? I guess maybe let's start there. What kind of work do you want to be doing ideally?
I would really, really love to get into the world of surface design as well.
All right.
Yeah.
And surface design is
like patterns on textiles or homewares, things like
and you've
that.
already been doing that though, right?
I have been doing that, but there's so much to learn, and there's so much to learn about like manufacturing and like Vancouver, where is this happening? Things like that. I would love to work with a company and like create like patterns for their clothing or some line of product. But actually I had this idea last year that I'm still like, it's in my to-do list. And it's hard to describe, but it's like essentially like, you know how when you're a little girl
Okay, yeah, I think I do.
and you know you're like obsessed with Sailor Moon and
you don't have to be a little girl to be obsessed with Sailor
exactly
Moon.
So you're like a little kid
Yeah.
and you're obsessed with some characters, right? And you want things that are printed with the characters and the world in like on your clothing, on stuff, but you also want the objects in there, like from the world. Like you want the magic wand, you want the actual physical thing, right? So I was thinking it would be cool to do like some online store where I would have a painting of some kind of world that I make up, and I would write about it, so there would be some kind of narrative, and you could purchase actual objects from the painting that I paint in the painting.
Whoa.
Yeah, but also you can get stuff printed from the actual artwork, the painting. So
That's such a deep product. That's awesome. And then do people get to choose what part of the painting they want to be printed on or no?
So each painting would have like a set number of products that you can buy based on
You're
that.
basically creating a brand on its own with its elements and its and its
So yeah,
swag.
that's the dream.
That's an amazing dream. And so that means you also want to be writing. Do you do writing?
I have tried it before, but like
You just
I don't really. I think there's a lot of work to be done with writing, with my writing.
Oh, what do you mean?
Like
Just to get to where you want to be?
I cringe like every single time I write some kind of narrative story.
That was my relationship with my writing.
Like it's just like, oh, like you just, it's like the opposite. Like if it's a bad feeling in your stomach. Like,
this didn't work.
yeah, I don't know. I'm also really hoping to do more collaboration. Especially like listening to your episode with Tierney Milne. I was like, man, like
she's a superstar.
yeah, I'm like, it's so cool how, you know, she has this group of people that she can like they can mix all of their skills and their interests and build something together. Like I'm really enjoying doing like being the lead artist in a lot of mural projects, but I would love to like work with a group of other people where I'm not the lead artist and I can learn new
Especially when you
skills
get a
and
really
things.
good group. Yeah, I guess the key is to finding people that you really work well with, and then even knowing the people who want to take responsibilities that you don't want to take, and you take on other ones, right? I think a part
knowing everybody's strengths and
Exactly.
milking them. Like
basically, yeah, it's very, very honestly said. I hope you do that. Do you want to
Yeah.
team up? Want to make something cool?
I would love to.
Okay, well, it's set.
I've been trying.
We've said it on here. Now we're gonna make something awesome. I actually had a question written down for you, and you already answered. Have you thought of running the brand yourself or partnering up with other stores? And I guess because that was specifically pertaining to the clothing, and I mean you just answered. I
Yeah.
guess the goal is to find
I
someone
mean,
to collaborate
that's not
with.
like it hasn't been a direct goal. Like I haven't been like, oh, like, you know, from March, you know, to June or July, like I'm gonna just use those couple of months to, you know, like start something. But I think I would like to begin with working with existing brands and companies, preferably like in the city.
I hope it happens.
Yeah, me too.
I'm smiling at you. I wonder, like, I think I imagine you're
Well,
already.
that's what Art Breakers was for me. Like,
yeah.
it was my first time doing any kind of market.
It was such a cool setup. You're so creative. You had such a. Do you have? Did
I
you take
wanted it
photos
to
of your
be-
booth?
I did. I have some
Okay, good.
photos on my Instagram, but I just wanted to make it like an immersive experience.
And it was. I thought
Like
it
you're
was
walking into my painting or something a little bit.
It felt like it, and it.
Yeah, I did like. It's hard to describe a visual thing.
You think I have to look at the photo?
Yeah,
Okay.
but it's like you're inside a staircase. Kind of. It's hard to describe.
You're inside
But-
your artwork.
Yeah, that's what I was trying to do, and like I painted all the dowels the way I would paint my murals or my regular paintings. Like there's like it's hard to describe it. Just look at the photo.
Just look
Sorry.
at the freaking photo, people. She can't tell you. I think you may have answered this already, but is there something specific you want to work on yet that you haven't tackled?
Yeah, lots of things.
That's what
actually.
I'm. Yeah.
Yeah, like
expecting from you.
I would love to do some kind of like theater set design or something. I did a little bit of that in high school, actually.
Tell us more.
Well, okay, so my friends like directed this play,
Yeah.
but it was, you know, Mean Girls,
Nice.
the movie Mean Girls.
Yes, I do. Yes, I do.
And so I was the art director, and I spent most of my last year, like in grade 12, after school, like sewing the backdrops, painting
wow.
the backdrops, trying to get people to help me paint the backdrops.
Nobody helps.
Well, people were like signing up for it because it's a cool thing to sign up for volunteer hours.
Yeah.
But then they'd be like, oh, like, I can't draw this perspective. Like, it'd be like a hallway or something like
Yeah.
that. And I'm like, just look at the photo and use it as a reference. But
So you already done it. You don't even need to do this anymore. You've tackled
Yeah.
set design.
I want to do some like completely my own design, my own world type of thing.
Do you know
Yeah.
where all your ambition comes from?
That's such a good question.
Well, thanks.
Yeah, I've never been asked that before, but my dad.
Yeah.
Yeah, probably my dad. Yeah.
Was he leading by example or by?
My dad, his personality is just like he's like a busybody, you know,
Okay.
like he you know, he pretty much, I would say, kind of retired when I was 15 or 14 or 15. And he just kind of decided that he never has had like a 9-to-5 job. When he was in Hong Kong, like he was like selling things door to door or something. Like I think he was selling, or when he came to Vancouver, he was selling Hilti tools or something like that.
Cool.
And then he started to do be a real estate agent. And so he would take me with him actually,
wow.
like to open houses,
Yeah, yeah.
because he, you know, like he had to look after me while my mom was working at her job,
Mhm.
which was more 9 to 5. And so like through my dad, I met like all sorts of different types of people. And then when he quit being a realtor,
Yeah.
real estate agent, I don't
Yeah.
know. He started to get really into buying and selling instruments. And like he's the type of person who, when he gets obsessed about something, it takes up his entire day and night and everything. Like he will, like, you know, he'll, like, he had a saxophone phase, a violin phase, and he just buys these old instruments, fixes them up, gets into it for like a couple months, and then sells them.
Yeah.
And even now when I go back to my parents' place, he has like so many different new hobbies, and a lot of it has to do with like buying old objects that were really well made and then
Wow.
fixing them up and then selling them again after.
And he's got the
and
skills
more.
to fix them up, all of them.
Oh my god, my dad, like, he's really good at like picking things up. Like
Wow.
he renovated the garage, turned it into like a bachelor suite.
I'm kind of jealous. So you took on
Yeah.
those that
So
kind
I
of
think
spirit
I just like grew up with like somebody who was like a blur, like running
because he's always
around.
doing something. Yeah.
Yeah, he's always like doing something or getting into something, staying up really late, working on something, like having to leave dinner early because he has to go, like actually I get from my dad a real love of polishing jewelry, polishing metal things, like
Well, you did say
making things
saxophones and
shiny.
everything. Yeah.
Yeah, but like he just loves like making things look really polished.
New,
I don't know.
clean, pristine, shiny.
Yeah, I don't know. I got some of that. I don't think I'm very pristine at all. No.
Well, you get to mess with paint, so it's okay. You don't
Yeah.
need to.
But to answer that question,
That's an ambition. Yeah.
probably my dad, probably like my whole family.
Thanks,
like,
fam.
yeah, even like my mom and like my mom's side of the family, like my grandma was really good with sewing and like making full suits, and like recently she made me some reusable bags that were like different colors inside and out, and just
Wow.
yeah.
That's really cool. It's interesting to know people's background stories like this. I found that it was very fascinating to talk with Benjamin Stone when he was here about how much his family influenced him. Because and when you start thinking about it and you wonder about yourself or other artists or just other people, and how, you know, it is definitely it's a matter of luck of where you're born because you don't choose to. I mean, even a country and a family, and then if you don't get that kind of influence, I'm curious and always interested in people and where they pick it up, because, you know, if you didn't get it from your family, you're still kind of the master of your own life, and hopefully if you have the desire, you can pick it up from you know, some people find it from a teacher, or someone just looks up to like Muhammad Ali and they just see this guy working. So, you know, there's this different ways to, you know, I don't know, hopefully kind of just be inspired, because we're sponges. I like this just idea of how people are formed, I guess. Maybe that's what it is, like the habits.
That is a very interesting thing for me.
Yeah?
Like
Well,
I don't
clearly,
know.
like I said, you're so
I don't know why
analytical.
I'm so self-obsessed, but I'm always like, like I often think about, like where different parts of me comes from, and also whether or not whether or not I have to stay with certain ideas I have about myself. You know, I very consciously like learned last year that, you know, I realized like you don't have to tell the same story about your life that you always had. Believe it or not, when I was in elementary school, like outside of like in school and not like at home being a loud person, but like I was really shy in the first couple of years of elementary school. And I always thought that I was like, I mean, I'm not a quiet person, but like I always thought that I was just a little bit shy. And so it took me like until like my early 20s to kind of realize like, oh, like you don't have to be that shy person who doesn't do public speaking.
Yeah.
That's not in stone or anything.
It's kind of exactly like myself as well.
Yeah, like that's not.
But I remember it had to be a conscious choice. I had to be like,
Had to
okay,
be
stop it.
conscious.
Like, what are you doing? Just stop it. Because I don't know if it was the same for you, but for me, I just didn't like I guess I just didn't like myself. I didn't like the idea of me being that person.
It's
Like,
just so inconvenient to like
Yeah.
not be able to do something because like because you're worried about something when nothing has ever said that you can't do it.
yeah.
And It's just like this idea that you thought
That's
so long ago.
That's a very
Like-
powerful thought. I think being able to change yourself, or being able to, what you're saying about yourself, just being able to change it, because I mean, I guess we all can. It's just a matter of knowing it. It's like
Yeah.
giving yourself permission first, and then you're actually doing it.
And like you can just like you will absolutely can do it. Like you just have
Mhm.
to find out how
Yeah.
to do it, and then if that way doesn't work, then you just find another way.
Yeah. But I remember that. Yeah, I think it's definitely a burden being kind of maybe just too self-conscious like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
I just remember
yeah.
it sucked. I mean, maybe that's why don't think about much about my childhood, because I was like, oh, why so shy, dude? Because I
Yeah.
do.
But
yeah.
the thing too is like I feel like that kind of that makes you who you are. Like maybe
For
you'll
sure.
be more aware if you see somebody who reminds you of when you were young, you can have that kind of empathy and relate
Yeah,
to
that's
that
very true.
person in a way that maybe not everyone else can who hasn't had that quiet like alone time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and whether it's difficult or enjoyable, right? Because sometimes just being by yourself is pretty nice as well.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. I do actually enjoy some alone time.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but not too much. I've learned.
Not months and months.
No.
Never again. Do you think you plan to stay in Vancouver for a while? I know you're a traveler, it seems like. But as a home base, is
man.
that the goal?
I'm not sure yet, actually.
Okay.
Like, I don't have, like, a specific goal in mind. Like, one of the reasons why Sean and I are keeping our overhead so low
Mm-hmm.
is because, well, first of all, like, this is just my second year of doing freelance work.
Mhm.
So, also, like, I don't want the stress of money to affect my work. And
That's huge. I think that's so
yeah.
huge. Yeah.
And so I just, that's why we're kind of living kind of cheaply.
Mm-hmm.
And then that also gives us a bit of freedom if we want to live somewhere like Berlin, for
Mhm.
example. I've been thinking about Berlin a lot, actually.
It's a good place.
Yeah, like if we want to go there for 3 months or something. I also, like Sean and I are also both applying for this artist residency in San
Oh, yeah.
Francisco.
That's cool.
So we're like 6 months, like if we get it, well, what's the worst that could happen again? Like, let's go.
You got such a good mentality towards it. What kind of residency would it be?
It's like a 6-month artist residency with Art Bubble,
Okay.
I think,
And
Yeah.
are any of the
or
expenses
Red
paid for?
Bubble. I don't Red Bubble. I
Okay.
think that's what it's called.
Don't tell people. They're going to apply too. Don't let them. You got to get it.
I've actually been telling people about it. Like, I think somebody posted it on one of my Facebook
Mhm.
groups. So
But do you know the conditions of, like, is a stay paid for? Is your living expense
it's
studio?
actually paid for.
That's like that. Those are the best
Yeah.
kind. That's
Yeah.
truly so that you don't have to worry about anything else. Yeah, I gotta go back to applying to some, because I've only got to go to one, but it's such a good experience. I hope yeah. Now I'm thinking I just gotta go home and apply. How have you been picking your projects to work on? Are you at a point yet where you can say no, or are you saying no to projects?
I am actually, because
That's good.
like I feel like a year and a half ago, like before I moved away, I felt like because at that time I was still working like 3 days at this day job and
Mhm.
also pursuing a lot of art, like art shows and everything, and I starting to burn out.
Hmm.
I think it's interesting because as a freelance artist, you're constantly shifting your game plan.
Mhm.
Like in the first couple of years of graduating university and then starting to be involved in these different art shows, I was doing any art show that I could get in, like as many as I could, and
Yeah.
creating one-off things. And it's like I was starting to burn out, saying yes to everything, and that has its time. Like that was really how I met a ton of people
Mhm.
and how I developed my artwork is by making lots of it. But then eventually, like, I was starting to feel like, oh, you know what, some things, I think I'm very clear about the value of what I'm doing,
Mhm.
and also being aware that sometimes I'm not aware of the value and trying it out anyway. So, like, for example, there is a startup company that wants to put vending machines all over the city
Mhm.
of like locally made food,
Mhm.
and they want me to do like a graphic like for their machine to cover it, like
Mhm.
vinyl cover, and like that's something where I know that their budget's really small.
Because
and
they're a
so,
startup. Yeah.
yeah, so I'm kind of trying to make it work with them.
Mm-hmm.
And so like, even though like, for something like that, I would find a lot of value
Mm-hmm.
in it, because that's all. I also it's kind of a weird thing, but I really like vending machines too. Like I have a bunch at home.
I'm learning so much about you.
Yeah,
You have a bunch at home?
I have two vending machines, like gumball machines and toy machines.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, one of them I turned into a lamp.
Mhm.
Like it looks like a lantern.
Like creative person, you.
And I have another one that's just like a stand-up one.
They
But
knew how
I'm
to
like,
find
that would
you.
be so cool. I don't know.
They're like, this artist Priscilla really likes vending machines. Let's ask her to make art for us.
They didn't know that when they asked me.
You don't know that.
That I was, but it is interesting because like, I find that when you think about what you want to do and you say it out loud or you write things down, things kind of, maybe you're just more aware of it, but like
Mhm.
opportunities kind of come that are aligned to what you want.
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of been happening to me in the past like 2 years.
That's pretty amazing. I guess especially
Yeah.
when you're letting people know and you're putting the work out that you
I
want
want
to be
to
doing.
do this. Yeah.
Yeah, there you go. I just want to make art and it's cool.
That's
Yeah.
what I learned too. Is like
Yeah.
you don't have to, like, when you get a job, it doesn't have to be like this like, well, they asked me thing. You could always like you can just tell people what you want to do,
Mm.
and then be like just putting it out there.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
you know.
I guess that's where the collaboration comes in.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I think I said that word wrong. Said it weird. What is color?
I said document, like, you know, like my mom used to say, instead of like, oh shit, I don't even know the real word. Okay, what do you call like my document? Is it my document?
Yeah.
Okay, I used to say document, like the whole
Document.
document, because my mom called it document.
Just people just
Yeah.
think you're international.
Document, yeah.
I gotta ask them about. So when you're saying you mentioned the value of the projects, do you mean the value of like financial, and then the value of it to yourself, and what it can add to you?
What the value to myself.
To yourself?
So
yeah,
part of it sometimes can be financial, right? Like
Okay,
if
yeah.
I
Mm-hmm.
need like to get paid
Mm-hmm.
because
Because
of living
we need
in
to get paid.
Vancouver,
Yeah,
and food and sleep.
please pay us. Don't make us chase you.
And actually, you know, if I'm being honest here, like a lot of it has to do with like, you know, people are gonna see it a lot, and if it's something that I'm really excited about,
Mm-hmm.
and maybe they can offer me something, anything,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, like
Because you're gonna want to do it. It's just
Yeah.
yeah.
like as a trade or
Yeah,
something.
just some doing
But
some
it
bartering,
would
yeah.
be for something, yeah,
That's cool.
like haircuts and stuff, massage. I've done ones for
Hey,
massages.
I'll take them. Yeah. Do you think of do you have to think of yourself as a brand when you're creating work? Is it something like is that a thought?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I guess it is sometimes, because like I don't think about it as like I have to be a brand. I just kind of like things to be cohesive.
Yeah. That's what I've noticed that.
Yeah.
Because you definitely have a look, and then it's a style that you're talking about. I think it's just so cool that you've been developing that style. You're saying 10 years, or you just got these
Yeah.
the connections throughout your life. It seems like even just with the look of the art. When were you first aware of your? I hate to use the word, but of your style. Like when did you realize that what you're doing is a look, and then you kept pursuing it?
I think like pretty early, as soon as I started doodling that way.
Really?
The reason
Oh.
why I kept doodling that way, because I was like, this I like this look.
Do you think you know yourself?
I think I know parts of myself, like, but I think part of making art is like the fact, like learning about myself, like
Mhm.
from what I end up seeing on my paper.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's really inspiring.
Yeah. I don't know.
I
Is
want to
it?
be like that. Yeah. Yeah. It sounds.
I
cool.
mean, it's a combination, and I go through phases because, you know, like lately, I haven't taken the whole like experimental like route as much,
Mm-hmm.
because, you know, when people are hiring me for certain jobs, they want a specific look,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and so, you know, after years of ironing out the style, like I have certain motifs that I will reuse consciously.
Yeah.
So I'm not always like, I don't know what's gonna happen in the
Yeah, yeah.
end. It's like a mix.
Well, you have your tools now.
Yeah, I'd like to one of my goals, I guess, a concrete
Another
goal.
one.
Yeah, another one of my goals is just to create a new body of work. Like, yeah.
How new? How do you mean new or different?
Just like where it's just art for me or for a show. Like nothing like for a wall or for some kind of collaboration.
So you think?
I just want to do it all, basically.
That's what I. Yeah, all these questions I'm asking you about all the things you want to do. It sounds like you just
right now or like tomorrow.
But I believe you're gonna do it all too, just because you have been.
What I do is like okay, so I don't know why this is relevant, but like, okay, so the employer that I work with for 5 years before I quit that job to move to Harrison Hot Springs.
Yeah.
She's like her name's Stacy, and she was like the most inspiring person for me turning into my mid-20s. She is an entrepreneur. She's this like powerhouse, like so inspiring. Where was I going with this? What was your question?
You doing everything. And
she gave me a really good tip because I was doing visual merchandising and window displays, and she was like, dream big, whittle down. And so I that's what I do. Is like I'll have ideas that are like kind of stupid sometimes or like crazy.
That's how they start. It's okay.
Yeah, and then like I'll have a list of crazy ideas, and then when the time comes, then I slot them in.
That's awesome. So you do think we're gonna see an art show from you soon? An art show from you soon? I'm sharing the words.
I don't know. It's hard to say.
Oh, you don't think it's gonna be an art
last
show?
Year.
Okay.
I thought that I don't have anything planned, but like I'm also. It's kind of weird. I haven't really pursued gallery representation at all.
But nobody says you have to, right? It's just I'm wondering if you want to.
I don't know. When I was in Berlin, like end of September, beginning of October, it gave me this idea that, like I could just, if I can find a place that's affordable to rent, like there's all these pop-up places, I could just do a show there.
Really? Okay.
Yeah. Like I think I'd have to make it worthwhile where like I'd have to maybe like see if I can hire people to help me with like the marketing and the PR aspect and stuff. But also
that's what a gallery is for, really. If you can find one. Yeah.
Yeah.
You should just find a residency there.
In Berlin?
Yeah.
I don't think there's any in Berlin directly. There's some outside.
Yeah. I remember seeing some outside. But if you do outside, then you just do a show in Berlin.
That's true.
Dream big.
It just, when I was in Berlin, it just made, I could think, I'm trying to think that way about Vancouver. But in Berlin, I just felt like you could do anything you want. Like you could sell a bread out of your window if you wanted to. You could set up a table in the park. And
was it a feeling or is it true? You know what I mean?
It's true.
It's true. Meaning you've noticed people just like them. It's like the American dream or whatever. Just if you want to do it, you do it, and it becomes a life.
Well, I guess like I was with my friend, and like she's an artist as well, Andrea Wan, and she actually has that kind of attitude. Like I guess and she really inspires me. But I think in some ways, like the way that she talked about Berlin, she says it's kind of on its way out in a way.
Okay.
But she said that when she first got there, like 6 years ago, it just felt like, you could start, like the spaces are so much cheaper that you can just sort of set out like to do whatever crazy idea you wanted. And maybe it's less true now in Berlin, but at the same time, like we were just wandering around, I think it's Krisenberg or something, but I did have that feeling.
That's awesome. That's a really good feeling. Yeah.
Yeah, because there were flea markets everywhere, and I saw a bunch of markets, and all these galleries that she showed us, like they didn't really look like gallery. I don't know. There's I don't know. It was really. It just sounds exciting.
Like you're surrounding yourself with the right people.
Yeah.
It's so valuable, right?
Yeah, but that's here too.
And I'm not saying it's not. But isn't it fascinating how much the cost of life affects your? I guess it's the risk taking maybe. When you're talking about kind of if your rent is cheap, how much more art can you do and experiment versus have to make the living, right? Yeah.
And that's what I took from coming back to, and we already had that idea when we moved back to Vancouver to live as cheap as possible. But like even like I was looking for a studio for 2 months, and everything was $200 plus, right? But I just was really like firm on like I was like $200 would be like a lot of extra weight on me when I don't really quite know what's gonna happen.
And what's going to come out of it too, right?
Yeah. And also I've had studios before where I felt like, I don't know, like it was a burden in a way. And so I just I waited it out and I found the perfect spot that fit my budget.
You're just very smart.
I just waited it out.
When you talked about advancing or experimenting within your style, do you know where you want to take it or what you want to change in it? Do you foresee where you want to...
Like, is there a goal? Like
It doesn't have to be, but do you, when you look at your artwork, do you know what you want to change or how to develop it farther? Is that a thought? Is that conscious?
Yeah. So, okay, so...
She's smiling. She knows everything.
Full, like, what do people say? Full disclosure?
Yeah.
I haven't been sketching very much or doing life drawing enough lately. And I know that, you know, when I have had that practice, that it does influence my very abstract work.
I think it should be so, right?
Yeah, because it's the same thing as, like, you know, like when I'm taking mental pictures of textures around the city that I like, good combos and stuff. Like, you know, I'm not drawing realistic portraits of people's faces, right? But like me practicing doing that, it affects what comes out, what I put in my brain, and my skills comes out. So that's something that I know is, because I've been feeling like a little bit like of a creative block recently, and you know, I haven't felt that for a couple years.
Do you know why?
But I think it's because I haven't been drawing from life as much, and I've been kind of like doing a lot of commercial projects and stuff, which have been challenging in a different way.
It is, right? And then when you, I think once you start working too much for someone else, it's almost like you forget or you lose that muscle of not needing a reason to create for yourself, right? Because there's always a goal, and then when it comes down to making work for yourself, you're like, oh, why do I do this, right? I don't know if you felt that. That was kind of my experience, and especially for me, working full time in an animation studio, every day is you're making something for someone. There's a purpose is going to be here, and then it's like looking for reasons or knowing why to make work for yourself.
Yeah, and also I'm kind of looking for another new constraint. You know, it's like, I'm 28, so I started doing it when I was 15. Is that 13 years?
Nice, yeah.
Yeah, so maybe it's time to do something slightly different too. I don't know.
Yeah.
But yeah, like I'm really excited to get this new studio and start. I want to do new paintings. Yeah.
I'm very excited.
Bigger paintings, actually.
So you're gonna go now in the middle, because you're saying you're doing small. And
I haven't done like something in the middle that's not too small, and not like a wall.
I actually had a question written down. When was your last creative block? So you just answered it.
Yeah, recently.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you have advice for people who want to be freelancing?
Okay. First of all, you're going to need lots of pep talks to yourself. So write those things down on your wall.
Yeah. I like that advice. Yeah. And
also, like, I don't know, like I did a lot of artwork and freelance work when I was still like working at the store. I started off working 5 days a week, and then I slowly went down to 4 and then 3 days. And, you know, like I was trying to like get into the art scene and do all these different shows, and I was also painting. I think it's just like, it doesn't matter what you do as long as you're moving. Like you just have to like hit a wall, like try. I don't know.
That's such an inspiring pep talk. Just
hit
do
a wall,
it.
I don't know, but it's kind of funny because like I think I saw on your Instagram once that you're like that you paint on your like lunch breaks and stuff. I had to do that too. You know, like
it's the struggle.
Yeah. I was doing Inktober.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I'd have to like do some in like 20 minutes, and I'd eat for 10 kind of thing. I only had a 30-minute break.
And it's fortunately, unfortunately, you kind of have to do that if you really want to move somewhere. It's like you're saying, you just got If you want to do it, and life gets in the way for whatever reason, you just kind of have to do it. Yeah. Do you have any?
Yeah, and the thing is, like, you know, when you just keep trying and doing it and like doing things, like you don't really know where they're gonna go. Like you might not even be aware of how that's helped you. Like maybe, you know, I don't know if I'm explaining that
No,
right.
you are. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's like just like go hit some walls and go like just I don't know, just go and just introduce yourself to people when you're at different art shows and just try to get into these shows. And some things will work, some things won't. And by the time you're at that point, you've already learned so much. So just like, and like nothing's going to explode. Like
Yeah.
one good motto is just like, what's the worst that could happen? Yeah.
I really like your
Yeah.
motto. It seems to work. Do you have any rituals or habits that you have that help you with your artwork?
With my artwork.
Or just in your day-to-day? It doesn't have to be art.
I'm learning that I definitely need to go for walks and I need to exercise because it affects how I see everything. And then if I don't exercise and I don't go for fresh air, it affects my artwork. Actually, it affects everything. So, yeah. So go for walks, I guess. What's another?
Just go be healthy, people.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. What was your question? Was like, what would I?
What your rituals and habits?
Oh,
just
okay.
things you do to help your day function better. Or
Yeah, definitely going for walks makes the function a lot better. Something new that I've tried, but I stopped recently, was like tarot cards.
that was a thing.
Yeah, like just like pulling out 3 tarot cards every day, and just like one of them will tell you where you're at, where you need to go to get to where you want to be. And I don't know, like I don't know how tarot cards work, but I find it kind of helps me focus.
Are they always
my
positive?
goal. No, they're not always
That's
positive.
something I would worry about, but
Well, nothing is ever like fully negative or positive, right?
it's just kind of like, watch out for this thing. Watch out for being lazy.
Kind of, or think about this
Okay,
kind of
yeah, yeah.
thing. What's another thing that I do? I don't know. I'm not the healthiest person. I know that like I know what to do to have good mental health and to like, you know, be a healthy artist, but I don't always do it. Yeah.
It's like everyone. It's hard
Yeah.
hard to be able to do it all in a 24-hour day.
I think it's also really important to talk to people in your day.
Oh, that's
if
what-
you're
yeah.
alone all the time.
That's what I wanted to ask you. Is that
Yeah.
do you feel like you have a community and a kind of like a tribe you belong to?
Yeah, actually, I really feel that strongly in Vancouver. I feel like, especially as a female artist, like there's such like generous, talented female artists in Vancouver who are just so generous with information, with like giving you a pep talk, like yeah.
I like that a lot, and
Yeah.
I'm noticing, the movements. Even you shared something, although I don't know if it's initiated in Vancouver, but did you have your work shared? Was it Women Who Draw, right?
Yeah, so like, you know, there are lots of Instagram pages. I don't know what pages and
Accounts,
stuff where
yeah.
they like feature different female artists. So I definitely feel that all over the world.
That's awesome. Yeah.
But in particular in Vancouver, it's just like there's a group of people. A lot of them are connected to Thrive Studios.
Yeah, and that's a pretty big one.
Yeah, like just anybody involved in that has been just so nice.
And that's just a group of
unpretentious and just welcoming and
talents and
Yeah.
hardworking, and also entrepreneurial people, right?
Yeah.
Unfortunately, we're kind of running out of time. I'll throw a couple more questions at you before we have to wrap up. Let's see. What's your biggest failure?
My biggest failure. Holy crap! I didn't know this question was gonna come up.
I didn't know either until now.
Okay, so this is definitely my answer is like almost like a work interview answer, but like I don't know. The first thing that comes to mind for me is in the past I have let like experiences with working with like people in the arts, people who are kind of like gateholders and stuff. Like I've let like certain interactions like really weigh me down for a long time, where it's like this big thing in my month or something. And I've learned to like have a perspective on everything, to shift my perspective. If like, or like with anything, I also, was that your question? Like
Biggest
a failure?
failure.
Yeah. So I've had it before where I've been so obsessed with like an interaction that I had. Like there was this there was this like curator who had an online gallery, and there was this. I was like a very new artist at the time, and I kind of fucked something up, and I don't know the way that, and I feel like I held my end into fixing the issue, but the interaction was incredibly negative. Like, like what had happened was she was showing some of my artwork on the website, and I had not realizing applied for this art competition with those pieces. And, I had said what, I'm really sorry about this because I got into the competition and my work was going to be shown. So I was like, I'll still give you your percentage and I'll give the gallery their percentage too.
Oh,
I just want to be in this show. And I don't know, I feel like she could have offered a little bit more grace.
But I was going to say, it doesn't sound like it's...
But it bothered this whole thing.
Yeah.
The situation weighed down on me for so long, maybe a month. It would be like this sinking feeling in my chest for all day for a month kind of thing. And I had to learn perspective. This is just one person and this is how they reacted. And
that's a crappy part is some people are able to have such a big effect on you and positive and negative, right?
Yeah. But yeah, that's something that was a huge fail, I think, in a way, for me, just fucking up, and then also just letting, not being able to forgive myself too. I was just I felt so bad.
But also, it doesn't sound so terrible though from the story you're telling. It's almost the other person maybe overreacted or something.
Yeah, but letting that bother me for that long.
Yeah. This may be along the same lines, but I'd like to ask that question: is that what advice would you give yourself before you went to Emily Carr?
Before I went to Emily Carr?
Yeah.
Maybe take a year off before you get into Emily Carr.
Yeah. Do you think you would have lost the habit of studying if you didn't? Or if you did take a break?
I didn't really have a great habit of studying in high school. I was I was looking back on Facebook. I don't know why I was doing this. I was bored. But I was scrolling through 2006, 2007. So I was 16 and 17 and looking through my Facebook. And so much of what's on my page is me being is anybody working on this paper? It's 3 a.m. or something. And
the habits were not there?
Yeah. So it is funny that you say that I'm hardworking and I know that I am.
You are, definitely are.
I haven't always felt that way. I was always oh shit, it's due tomorrow. And then there'd be, there's people on Facebook who are doing the same thing. So I was in that group.
You're not the only one.
No.
Well, but it does sound like you've maybe just haven't found your medium until then, meaning now you're doing what you love. And that's why you're able to work so hard, because you're doing what you love.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Thank you so much. I'm so inspired, and I think I'll have to digest this conversation. It's been really great, honestly. You're just an inspiring person, and I was expecting this to be great, and it turned out to be even better. So
thank you so much.
No, thank you. I'm so happy. You should let people know how they can find you.
Best way to contact me or just see what I'm up to is Instagram, and my Instagram handle is @Priscilla Yu Art. Yeah.
Yeah. And website priscillayu.ca.
Oh yeah, priscillayu.ca.
Very nice. I got you. You don't have to worry. Go look at her website. We can all learn something from Priscilla. Awesome website. Also look at her setup for Art Breakers. That was really cool. Really hope we can do Art Breakers again next year.
Me too.
And it's gonna level up. I'm sure you're gonna have 2 floors, a 2-story setup or something, because you're so ambitious. Thank you so much. If you want to learn more about Creative Theory Podcast, go to Instagram and Facebook. Say hi. It's a good place to hang out. Love you all. Thank you so much. Bye.
Bye.